Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jaleesa Kenyon, and I'm the social sciences librarian here at the University of Idaho Library. What we're going to be talking about today is Introduction to Citation Managers. What we're covering is what are citation managers and why use them, the key differences between Zotero and Mendeley, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the key features in both tools. So things like, well, first off, accounts and installation. How do you actually access these tools and get them working? Collecting and organizing sources, creating reference lists and using the word processor plugins, and then sharing and collaborating with group libraries. If you have any questions today and you're in person, feel free to raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, please feel free to put those in the chat or raise your hand there, and I'd be happy to have you unmute your microphone and we can kind of converse that way. Okay. So what are citation managers? According to the University of Maryland, citation managers are tools that enable you to store and organize your references to journal articles, websites, and pretty much any other type of source you're using for your projects. They integrate with word processors such as Microsoft Word so that you can insert correctly formatted citations directly into your documents while you're writing, and then generate a formatted bibliography at the end. The nice thing about citation management styles is they kind of come preloaded with more citation styles than you can even imagine. Zotero has access to 10,000 plus citation styles, and they keep adding new styles as they start to develop. So all of these tools, Zotero, Mendeley, and some of the others that we're not going to talk about today, provide access to the most commonly used styles. So things like APA, Chicago, MLA, and all of the kind of other styles that you might recognize. But they also allow you to create in-text citations and bibliographies or reference lists in styles that are specific to individual journals. So we'll often see things like a journal says, we're going to use Harvard, but we're going to throw in a little bit of MLA in the mix and then do something slightly different that makes it even more confusing. Zotero and Mendeley and tools like that allow you to identify the exact style that you need, and it will convert your citations into that style. That's what makes these tools so powerful, is that when you're doing, whether it's just a single research paper for a class, you're working on your thesis or your dissertation, or you're doing other large scale projects, you can use a citation manager to help. So this is why you should use citation managers, is they can really help save you time. They can help you reduce errors in citations. They can help you organize and tag your sources, and they can help you collaborate with others. Other tools like EndNote and RefWorks exist, but I recommend Zotero or Mendeley because number one, they're free. They're not inherently connected to your U of I credentials. So when you graduate, you don't have to try and move your Mendeley or your Zotero account like to another version of the platform. You would have to do that if you create your account using your U of I email address, but you could always go in and change the email address associated with your account, but you don't have to log in using your U of I credentials. These are also widely used, and they're very good for academic use. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the key differences. So as I said, both Zotero and Mendeley are free. Zotero is open source, and they provide additional storage capacity if you want to pay. That's the same thing with Mendeley. It's free, but they have optional premium plans where you can get kind of more tools and more features as well as more storage. The platforms are fairly similar. Both use Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, so you can install the desktop apps on those tools. They both have web platforms. Today, we're actually going to focus on the web version of Mendeley because I think it works better than the desktop app. But Zotero also has an iOS and an Android app. So if that's something that's important to you to be able to kind of browse your citation library while you just have your phone or a tablet, Zotero might be the way to go. In terms of layout, Zotero is much more simple and it's kind of a more basic file explorer style, whereas Mendeley is sleek and has a modern user interface. In my perspective, Zotero is the easiest for beginners. It's pretty easy to learn as long as you know how to navigate kind of that file explorer system, which we all use. It's very easy to use. But Mendeley is also easy for beginners as well. Both Zotero and Mendeley have browser plugins that allow you to pull the metadata from the citations or the sources you're seeing on your screen directly into those tools. So whether you're searching our library catalog, Google Scholar, or you're on a website, these browser plugins will help you pull that information into the tool you're using. In terms of supported browsers, for these connectors, Zotero allows you to use Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or Edge. But if you're going to use the Mendeley web importer, it only works with Chrome and Firefox. In terms of capture accuracy, so the accuracy of the information that is captured each time you click that connector button, Zotero is highly accurate and it's customizable. I noticed in my testing that Mendeley is sometimes less precise and might require more manual editing, but overall, it's still very effective. So now in terms of sharing information, both Zotero and Mendeley offer group libraries. They might be called something slightly different, but they both of them offer options to put citations in a folder that you can share with other people. The group size, though, is where we see some of the differences. In Zotero, there's no limit on how many people can be in your group, and there are public and private options available. But in Mendeley, the private groups are only limited to 25 members. So maybe if you're just working on your thesis or dissertation, that's probably not that big of a deal. Maybe you're just going to be sharing your group library with your major professor or other folks who are kind of reviewing your research. But as you start working on larger scale projects, maybe you're doing grant work or you're out in the field in your profession, that can be more limiting. In terms of permissions for these group libraries, Zotero offers both read and write control. So the creator of the group has more control over what can happen with that group library and the content within it. And then for Mendeley, there's shared library access, but it's less customizable and there's less control over what the group members can do. So here's where we see some differences in terms of storage and how both tools work with PDFs. So Zotero offers 300 megabytes of storage for free and syncs between the desktop app and the online application. The benefit of that and having that sync between the desktop and the online application, which Mendeley has as well, is that it allows you to access your citations wherever you are. And because both of these are free, you could download the desktop app or the iOS or Android app on your phone for Zotero, for example, to multiple devices and never have to pay and keep all of your citations syncing across those different platforms. Mendeley offers 2 gigabytes of storage for free. And for both of these, Zotero and Mendeley, you can pay and upgrade. It's important to recognize that this storage and this capacity is only connected to storing PDFs or kind of web snapshots. So this has nothing to do with how many citations you pull in. Both Zotero and Mendeley have the option of letting you attach PDFs to the items you pull into that citation or that metadata, or just kind of pulling them automatically when you're collecting that data using the web importer. So you can turn that off and not have any issues with storage capacity at all. And when you're pulling that information down, it will include a hyperlink to go find the full text again. In terms of PDF annotation, both tools have built-in readers or viewers and allow you to add annotations to those PDFs. One of the benefits, though, of Mendeley is that they have more advanced annotation tools than what you get in Zotero. So Mendeley kind of rolled out their PDF viewer and the annotation tool, I guess, a little while ago. Zotero, that's fairly new. It's a fairly new feature for them. So one of the other things that Mendeley excels at is something that I'm just calling highlights across PDFs. So when you're in Zotero, if you highlight PDF for one citation and then highlight a PDF or highlight a PDF's like content from that PDF for another citation, there's no connection between those. But Mendeley provides a notebook feature, which when you're working within the tool, it's like this blank Word document. It's not Word, it's within the system that's open. And as you're highlighting things, you can actually add them to your notebook. So as you're working through maybe a list of sources that's relevant to a specific chunk of your literature review, you could highlight content that's relevant and add all of those highlights across the sources to a single page of your notebook to help you make those connections outside of the PDFs themselves. You can then download the notebook pages as RTF files that could be then opened in Word or Google Doc or whichever word processor you prefer to use. In terms of third-party syncing, Zotero allows you to kind of do some syncing with Google Drive, Dropbox, and WebDAV. Mendeley only allows third-party syncing through cloud storage. I'm not too familiar with those, with kind of what third-party syncing looks like. This was just the information that was available on their website and something that I wanted to compare in case that's important to you. So now in terms of the Microsoft Word plugin, Zotero and Mendeley both have plugins that work with Microsoft Word. Zotero Word plugin and Mendeley Cite. I was planning to demonstrate both Word plugins today, but try as I might, I could not get Mendeley Cite to work. It wouldn't work at all on Friday. I got it installed today and it just wouldn't generate anything when I clicked the button. I'll show you where you can go to install it because maybe it's just a glitch with my computer. And Mendeley really has good documentation on how it works. And it works pretty similarly to the Zotero plugin. It's just located in a slightly different place in Microsoft Word. Zotero does offer Google Docs integration via a browser extension. Mendeley does not. And Zotero also offers kind of a word processor plugin with LibreOffice if you're using that, but Mendeley does not. Okay, so let's see. Before we go on to the demo, some of the highlights of this content, and you'll see some examples in the demo of how they work. But just at first glance, Zotero is kind of best for open source fans. If that's really important to you, Zotero is going to be the tool for you to use. Because it's open source, it, as I said, is free, similar to Mendeley. But the code development is much more open. And that means a lot of people have created add-ons that work with Zotero that might, add some cool features that you didn't know existed or that you want. It's also more consistent and stable. So over time, even though they keep running updates, the overall kind of structure and capacity and value for Zotero has stayed very similar. They've added new features like the PDF annotation tool, but you don't see huge changes in how Zotero is going to look or function, which can be really useful if you want consistency. Mendeley Cite, or Mendeley on the other hand, is better for PDF management because it allows you to have more annotation tools and kind of use those tools to pull together content into your notebook. If that's something that's important to you, Mendeley is going to be the way to go. One of the challenges with Mendeley, though, is that there are lots of changes to the interface and the features. A few years ago, they had Mendeley Desktop, which they've kind of I think they're still supporting because there was outcry, but it's not their most recent tool anymore. They've rebranded it as Mendeley Reference Manager, and they keep kind of making changes to this tool. So if you want consistency, stick with Zotero, but if you're okay with changes to the user interface and you really want more PDF management options, Mendeley is going to be the way to go. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this slideshow here, and let's go ahead and jump in to the demonstration. Hide my meeting controls. Okay, so I'm going to show you, I'm just using an incognito window because I'm already logged into the accounts in the main screen. And I just want to make sure that you all can see what things look like. Okay, so I'm zooming in for the folks here in person so they can see that a little better. So to install the desktop applications for Mendeley, you just go to www.mendeley.com. Up here at the top, you click download, and it's going to give you the option based on your operating system. So I'm using Windows, so that's what it's going to offer for me. And it's going to give a little bit more information about things that I could use here. Zotero is also very similar. When you're on this page, zotero.org, you're going to click the download button. It's again going to recognize the operating system you're using. But what's really nice is that it automatically prompts you to install that browser connector that helps you access content when you're browsing the web or access the metadata for those sources. So you would just click through these and install them. To find that connector with kind of the Mendeley tool, the browser connector, what you can do is go to their support page. And as you scroll down, what you're going to look for is this citation plugin. And it's going to, or actually that's for the site while you write, the web importer is what you're going to look for here. And it's going to give you information for how to install it, either via Chrome or via Firefox. What I do recommend, though, for both Mendeley and Zotero, whichever platform you choose to use, is to create an online account. This is going to allow you to sync across multiple devices. And for me, personally, the Mendeley web version works better than the desktop app. There's more consistency, and it just works slightly better. I like the Zotero desktop app, but the benefit of having the online one in addition to syncing is that you need the online account for Zotero to create group libraries and share them. So if that's something that's important to you, you can create that account. When you install Zotero with your operating system, usually it automatically installs that citation plugin for you within Microsoft Word if that's what you're using. But as we saw for Mendeley, that's not kind of an option on this page, but there is information here for this Mendeley site if you want to work directly with Word, and that can help you too. There's also a citation plugin that you can install, which might work slightly differently. And maybe that's the one that I should have tried installing if the other one didn't work. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into some demo. So we're going to look at adding sources via the browser extension. Okay, so we will just open this up. And I'm just going to go to our library catalog, or actually I'm going to go to Google Scholar, just since it'll give us more sources to look at on a single page here. So when you're browsing the web, up here you can see I have these browser extensions. It's kind of small if you're in person, but there's a little icon. If you hover over, it says Save to Zotero, and there's a little icon if you hover over that says Mendeley Web Importer. It's important to remember when you're using Zotero, if you're going to be kind of adding content to Zotero, which I have open right here in this app, is that you'll need to have the desktop application open for the web importer to work. If you don't have it open and you click it, nothing's going to happen. So you'll want to have the desktop app open. For Mendeley, I'm already signed in, but when you click this, if you're not signed in, it's going to prompt you to enter your username and password. So let's just search for a topic here. I see lots of sources. I can view the PDFs, maybe go through the library catalog if I need full text access, but maybe I want the citation data from multiple sources here. When we're pulling this information into Zotero, make sure you're on the folder where you want the content to go. I already have folders. We're going to step through organization in a couple of minutes. But make sure you have the folder selected that you want, and then simply click that button. When you're on a page like Google Scholar, it's going to provide you with an option to add all of the sources that you see on the page. If you're on a single article page, it would just pull the metadata from that one article. It might try and identify some of the references too. But maybe I want some of these here. I can just click a couple of these, and then I can say OK, and it will add them to that folder. If I had the option on to pull PDFs, it would try to find open access versions of those PDFs and add them to those folders. So if I come back here into Zotero, here's one of the ones that we just added. We can see it added the type of source, the title, author, publication, volume, issue, pages, information to find the full text again, pretty much everything that we need here. Okay. Now for Mendeley, it works in the same way. I have Mendeley open here. It's the web browser. It looks pretty similar to Zotero. I could just come to this page, click that button. It takes a little bit longer, confirming that I'm signed in with my account. Again, I'm using my U of I account. You don't have to use your U of I email address. You can use whatever email address you want since this isn't connected to your U of I credentials. I could click the articles that I want. It's checking if a PDF is available just automatically. Usually if you go directly, sometimes if you go directly to the article page, it'll find the PDF for you. But I can add these to my library. It's going to slowly add those in. Then I can come back here. It's going to take a second for them to show up. But once they show up, they'll kind of be at the top of my list up here under all references. So let's talk a little bit. Maybe we started pulling in content and now we're like, oh, I can't just add this to my whole library or I'm going to have a zillion sources in a single place. Let's talk a little bit about organization. So when you are working within something like Zotero or Mendeley, organization is going to be kind of a key for you. So when you start out, all you're going to have is My Library, which is what we saw in Mendeley for that quick little look. You can right-click on My Library and add a new collection. Collection is the word for folders when you're in Zotero. So you can add a new collection, and we'll just say GSE Workshop, and create that collection. Now, when I'm doing that web importer, I just want to make sure this collection is highlighted, so content automatically goes in there. If I realize that content went in a wrong folder, I can just highlight everything and then drag and drop it into the correct folder, and it's going to move that content over. The important thing to recognize is when you drag and drop is it doesn't delete things from the original folder. So if you didn't want these in this collection, since this was the collection I'm no longer using, I can just right click, remove them from the collection, and they get moved to the trash can, which I can then dump. You can continue to add sub-collections, as many as you want. You can rename the collection, you can move them, you can copy them, delete them, export, etc. So I would recommend when you're starting to use Zotero or Mendeley, try to have some type of organizational structure in mind. Maybe it's going to be by research topic, maybe it's class, maybe it's the different chunks or parts of a lit review or something that you're focusing on. You can organize in those ways. Mendeley is similar. Under all references here, if you right click or if you, theirs is slightly different. They have all of their content here, but under collections, you create collections in this spot. So we'll just say GSE workshop and create it. And again, we can drag and drop content over if that's what we want to do. By highlighting this, we can make a sub-collection, we can export, delete, or rename. So their organizational capacity is fairly similar overall when we're looking at both Zotero and Mendeley. When we are looking, though, at specific sources, so let's say maybe I wanted to look at this source, we can see this content here. You can add specific tags if you want to. So you can create whatever tag you want. Maybe you want to group things by a method that they're using because that's important to you in your research. Maybe you're grouping it by like overall theme. Maybe you're grouping it by the limitations. You can add tags related to that. I have very simple tags right now. I have to read and read. And with those, as I add that in, it's going to add a little green dot, which tells me I need to read these. Over here, you can see where I have my tags. It's pretty small if you're in person, but once you create a tag, you can always change the color if you want to. To remove a tag, simply click the minus button and it goes away. Mendeley has similar tools as well. If we look at these down here, we can do some further organization, adding to the group. We can mark as a favorite, unfavorite, read, or unread, but you can't really add kind of content level tags. You're a little bit more limited there in terms of how you can engage with individual sources compared to Zotero. We can, if we go back to Zotero, add notes to content here. So we could add a note, like a sticky note to this. So I've used this when I'm doing my own research. Maybe, you know, I still kind of like reading a printed version of an article. So I'll read that and do highlights and notes there. And then I'll transfer those notes over into this so it's stored with the citation information. So you can add notes. They have some basic formatting things here if you want to use those. But it's kind of just a very basic text editor. When we're looking at Zotero, we can add general notes about the source here. This is going to function kind of as that sticky note that we saw in Zotero here in Mendeley. But we could also start adding, if we were highlighting anything in the PDF, that's where these annotations will appear. So let's talk about annotations. So here is a source which has the PDF available. As I'm looking through this, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. We have capacity up here to have different select tools. We can have highlight, underline, highlight a whole rectangle. We can add comments. We can also change the color. So maybe I'm just going to highlight some random content here. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to underline this. And then what I can do is maybe I want to add this to that notebook that I was talking about because I'm doing research on transformative publishing agreements and I want to make some connections between those articles. If I click on this annotation, I can add it to my notebook. So I'm going to click to add a new page since I don't have anything yet. And it should add that content over. I might need to click back over here, add to my notebook, and maybe I want to add this to my notebook too. So we can title this page. We can also add typing. So we can say like, reread this content, important for literature review. This is going to save automatically. And as I exit out of this and exit out of this PDF, I don't have very many PDFs in here in my Mendeley account. But if I were to add more content, I could view the notebook by clicking the notebook icon and then see all of the content. I could continue to add new pages as I was creating annotations for different topics. The Zotero PDF viewer works similarly as well. Let's see if we can find an example of a source with a PDF. So this one down here, just double click. So there's no way to create kind of that annotation notebook, but a lot of the tools are very similar. You can highlight text, you can underline it, you can add sticky notes, you can add your own text, select an area, or kind of do different drawings. I think the only limiter here is, again, there's no single tool that's going to pull all of your annotations together if you want to use that. But if you want to keep all of your work with the documents you're looking at in Zotero or in Mendeley, the basic PDF viewers can work really well for you. So let's talk a little bit about what you need to do to make, before we go on to adding additional types of files or additional types of sources, what you need to do to make sure that Zotero is syncing across multiple devices. So to do that, you have to have your online account to create connections between the different desktop apps or the online app if that's what you're using. When you're in Windows, what you're going to look for is settings or preferences. I believe right now the Mac OS is called preferences to make this change. But when you come in here, you'll want to look for sync and you'll link your online Zotero account to make sure that there's connection between the desktop version, the phone app version, and the online version, if that's what you choose to use. Mendeley will do that automatically, so you won't have to do this. Within this is where you can also choose if you, in Zotero, want to automatically retrieve metadata for PDFs and ebooks, which I do. If you want to take snapshots when creating items from web pages, that can be very helpful, especially if the web pages you're accessing content on might change. So if you're looking at something like government information or maybe a company website, you might want a snapshot of what it looked like exactly when you pulled the citation. You can also check the box to automatically attach the PDF if it's available. When you come here for Cite within Zotero, this is where you can see the main citation styles that I have added to be used by default. You can click the plus button, and this will give you the option if you wanted to upload a style. Sometimes there's downloads that you can have, but you can also click Get Additional Styles, and this is where you can see the list of 10,000 styles. So we can see a lot of these are connected to specific journals. As you hover over them, you can see an example of what it looks like. So if you're publishing in specific journals, you can see if there is a citation style relevant to that journal. Most often, I think for a lot of us, we're using the fairly standard styles that are consistent and more general. Now, when we're in Mendeley, there's less customization available. When we click on our account, we do have some preference information. You can watch a folder on your device. So every time maybe you put a PDF in that folder, it will automatically see that folder and pull the citation information. I haven't used that yet. You can also say, this is the citation style I want to be used by default. There's a single style listed here. And then groups is where you can see where you're sharing information. So overall, Mendeley has fewer styles within the web browser tool, but you can access more styles using that word processor plugin. Okay, so let's talk about adding sources using other types of options besides just these web importers. So maybe you have a PDF. Both Zotero and Mendeley allow you to just upload a PDF and it will try to pull the citation information. So under add references, I can import a single file, a whole folder, import a library, which would be content from another citation manager, or add references manually. So let's just import a file. It's pretty simple. Sometimes these don't work perfectly, but we'll just, let's see, we'll grab this one, add this in, it's uploading the file, and it's going to try to generate a citation. And here it is. It has all of the information that we need right here, key information that would be relevant to create a citation. When you're doing this, whether it's adding or creating citations based on a PDF that you upload or pulling information from the web importer, you'll want to double check the accuracy of the citation because the quality of the metadata that's pulled from the source is what is connected to the quality of the citation that's generated. We won't do this in Zotero because it's exactly the same, but you can click this button. It's a little, looks like a piece of paper with a plus sign. If you hover over it, it says add attachment. If you say add file, that's where you can upload a PDF and it will pull that citation information. We saw where Zotero allows you, or where Mendeley allows you to add references manually. Zotero is very similar. There's options where if you knew the ISBN for a book or a DOI or PMID, you could add that content here and it will pull that citation information, as we saw in Mendeley. Under add reference manually, there's an option to add it with an identifier, but maybe you had a physical book or you had a different type of source and maybe the identifier wasn't working. You can choose the type of source here, like a thesis, and then add the title, the author, and any other relevant information, and it will create a citation manually for you. Zotero functions the same way, where you can you can choose the type of source and then add citation information. For both of these tools, whether it's Zotero or Mendeley, once you click on a source, you can look at all of the sources or all of the content for the source, the metadata, and you can make changes if you need to. So if something's misspelled, or maybe the title of the source is in all capital letters, you can make those changes manually. One of the things that I like about Zotero is when you're in the desktop app, sometimes it works better when you're going to create citations automatically for the title of the source to be in lowercase rather than in title case. You can just click on the title. You can right click on the title and you can switch, if I don't hit the wrong button on my keyboard, between title case and sentence case. So doing that just changes it automatically. So you don't have to go through and backspace all of the first letters of each word that you're looking at. Any questions about adding content to Zotero or Mendeley? It's pretty straightforward, and it's really just figuring out which tool you like better in terms of that that work. When we're looking just very broadly at Zotero and Mendeley, when it compares to adding sources and organizing them, really, I think the only advantage that Mendeley has is that notebook feature with the PDF annotation. Otherwise, I think Zotero is neck and neck with it. And so then it's just really down to what type of structure do you like based on that. So let's talk about generating a bibliography. Before we jump into the word processor plugins, you can choose not to use those at all and generate citations directly from Zotero or Mendeley. The easiest way is you can just click on a source, right click, and then you can say, create a bibliography from the item. You can choose your citation style in Zotero. You have your default ones. You can manage them by adding more. You can choose whether you want a citation, which depending on your style is going to be an in-text citation, if that's something that exists, or maybe it'll be the little number that appears next to content in your writing, or a bibliography entry. You can save it as a RTF file that you can download and open in a word processor, save as HTML, copy to clipboard. We will just copy this to the clipboard. We'll open Microsoft Word. I'm going to move this and zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. And we can just paste this citation in. And for APA, this did pretty good. The article title is in sentence case. The journal title and the volume number are italicized. The issue number is not. It doesn't have a page range, but it's possible that this is an online only article. So maybe that's the article number instead of the page range, has the DOI. Authors are inverted, last name, comma, first initial, and the date is where it needs to be. So even though you're using these online citation managers, you still want to have some basic understanding of the citation style you're using or a way to double check it. A lot of these citation styles, APA, Chicago, have very accessible websites. We subscribe to the online version of the Chicago Manual of Style, so you can double check there. MLA has some basic content on their website. The library has the print style guides. And if you're working with a specific journal, they often provide you with examples of how to cite the top types of sources like books, journal articles, websites, news sources, etc. Mendeley works in a very similar way. You can choose the source that you want, exit out of that. You just kind of right click on it. You can copy the formatted citation. And remember, I chose the default to be APA, so you could change that if you wanted to and have a different default. And here it is here. So this one didn't do so well because in APA, this shouldn't be title case, it should be sentence case. So I would need to make that change, before submitting this or turning this in for an assignment or my thesis or sending it to a journal for review, just to make sure that that matched the style. Both Zotero and Mendeley allow you to highlight multiple sources. You could highlight a whole folder. You could pick and choose sources in a folder, and again, just generate the references for those. Now, if you want to be a little bit more advanced in your citation generation, you can use the plugins. So at the beginning, I said that I did my best to install the Mendeley cite add-in, and I, for the life of me, could not get it to work the way it was supposed to. When you download it, though, it will appear in Word under the References tab. So it's still here, but it's just not working. So this is where it will be if you were using this add-in. The Zotero add-in, in contrast, adds its own little tab up here at the top of Word. I'm not going to demo how this works with LibreOffice or Google Docs, but Zotero has good documentation on how that works. The Mendeley Cite add-in works very similar to the Zotero one, though, so hopefully it'll give you an idea of how this type of tool can work. You will need to have Zotero open to run this, and likely Mendeley, either the web version or the desktop app open as well, so that I can kind of see what you have in that library and pull the citation information in. So you can add and edit a citation. I'm going to choose, you can choose whatever style you want. So let's maybe say Chicago Notes and Bibliography, and I want endnotes. I'm going to click OK. It's going to give me the option, hopefully once this loads, if it loads, the option to search for a source. So it didn't give me the option to search, and it's possible that, oh, there it is right there. It will give me the option to search. You can search by title, by author, by any keyword that is within the metadata for the source. So if I search for something like land grant, it's going to give me all of those options. And I can click on this source, add it in, and it's going to create a Chicago note and bibliography here. Now, as I was going through, there would be some content here. So like written content about the source, right, for this kind of in-text reference here, but that is how this works. Now, if I needed to add a bibliography, which might not need to happen here with the Chicago tool or with the Chicago style, but if I was using APA, it would first just give me an in-text citation, and I would need to click Add or Edit Bibliography to get that reference list entry. In this case, it added one. Sometimes when you're using Chicago notes and bibliography, they want the bibliography as well. Now, if I want to change the style, I can click Document Preferences and easily switch to a different citation style. We'll see how well this works going from Chicago, which is a note style, to APA, which is text citations. We'll see how this works. The goal of using this is that it should do it correctly. And so it's still left the little I's, but we could easily, highlight that content and delete it, and then we have that in-text citation. One thing though, as we just saw there, is that sometimes there are errors when you try to add in this content. So when that happens, what you can do is unlink your citations. And that means you won't be able to make any updates, but then you can delete as much as you need to. So when you're working with the Word or the word processor add-ins, sometimes you have to try a number of different things to get them to work effectively. Sometimes it's just easier, in my opinion, to just copy and paste the citations from the platform itself. But this is very handy if you want to add citations while you're writing. Again, there might be errors, like this one has an error in terms of the title of the article, and it needs to be sentence case. You'll just have to go through and correct that manually, or find the citation in Zotero or Mendeley and make those changes there so that it exports them correctly. So let's talk very quickly about creating groups. So when you're in Mendeley, it's really easy, whether you're in the desktop version or the web version. You scroll down, you click create a group. We can say, just give it a name. Scroll down a little bit. It's going to create that group. And a group is going to be a collection of citations that you can share with other people. So it should have created it. Let's try again. Maybe it's just running a little slow. Said it created it. It's not showing up. So we will just work with a group that already exists. We this icon here. We can manage the group, and this is where we will invite members. So we can click invite, we can add in their email addresses and send the invitations. Remember, these invitations are limited to 25 members, and they likely will need to have a Mendeley account to view the library. Usually that's helpful though, is ensuring that they do have an account, whether it's with Mendeley or Zotero, because then if they have access to all of your PDFs and they're doing annotations, you can kind of know who's doing that work, and it's not just freely available to everyone. In Zotero, you can see my group libraries, and we can create a group here, but we can't actually share it until we are in the web version of Zotero. So from the web version of Zotero, let me open that tab. We would just click groups. We can also create a new group here if we wanted to, so I'll just do that since we're here. And we can choose our membership type. So we can have more control than we had in Mendeley. So we can say public and open membership, so anyone can view and anyone can join and start adding citations. That could be useful. Maybe you're on a project where you're working with, maybe you're doing interview research or focus group research, and you want to know the types of like information people are engaging with, the news sources they're reading, and you want to see an example of an article. People could then add to this group. Public or closed membership means anyone can view the group that you create via this URL, but only members who you've invited can actually add content or delete content. Private membership is only members can view the group, and they're the only ones who can add content. So depending on what you want, we can go ahead and create this. We see it's private. The reading is any group member rather than anyone on the internet. We can choose who actually can edit. So even if you have other people can read, you can say only group admins can add or edit. So there is still some control. And then file editing would be who can like upload files, who can annotate files, etc. So we'll save the settings. And then once this saves, we will be able to come under member settings, and that's where we can start sending invitations. So if you have a private group, that's where someone will need to have a Zotero account. If it's public, people can just access it via the URL. From that page, we also saw the option to update roles. So if you wanted to add someone, it's only me right now, but you could create other group admins if that was some type of sharing protection you wanted to have there. So again, there are lots of use cases for this. Maybe you're in a single class and you're doing some type of group project. You can share with your classmates. You can share with your major professor when you're working on your thesis or dissertation. You can share with collaborators on grant projects. And one of the great things, whether you're using Zotero or Mendeley, is so long as you Even if you use your U of I email address now, definitely don't use your U of I password to create this account, but you can use your U of I email if you want. And as long as you change it over to your personal email before you graduate, you will continue to have access to all of this content, including the PDFs that you add in. So those won't go away when you're no longer affiliated with the U of I. And then you can continue to use it and keep collaborating with your collaborators and adding those kind of references and sources to your Zotero or your Mendeley library. So that was a pretty quick overview. I think that I use Zotero personally, but I've used Zotero for teaching sessions like this and teaching it to other classes. I think maybe I said Zotero twice. I've used Mendeley for teaching to other classes and for demonstrating for things like this. And I think it works just fine. It's really just based on your goals and the type of almost like user interface you like better. Okay, so before we open it up for final questions, let's go ahead. I'm just going to show this. We show this for every workshop. We have a link to the previous workshops here. The slides are going to go out to everyone who registered for today's session. And then here's a list of our upcoming workshops. We have workshops every Monday from 1:30 to 2:30 through November 10th. So feel free, register or attend any of these in person or via Zoom. They all present content that's kind of either helpful for you right now or might be helpful for you in the future. So please take advantage of these if you're interested in the topics and learning a little bit more about them. Okay, so I will go ahead and close PowerPoint. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? Well, if there's no questions, thank you all for being here today. If you do encounter questions using Zotero or Mendeley, please feel free to reach out to me via email. My email is on the slides that you all will receive for registering. And I will do my best to help you, but we have a lot of Zotero and Mendeley experts in the library. So depending on your question, I'm sure one of us can help answer it. So thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Thanks, everyone.